Hello, good to see you again. Welcome to Block 5, Fraction, Decimal, and Percentage Equivalence, Lesson 4. I'll share my screen. So, in your previous lesson, you learned the interchange between fraction and decimal number lines, or put in another way, the equivalence between fraction and decimal number lines. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to convert between fractions and decimals, but the focus is on tenths and hundredths. Before we start, I want to draw your attention to something that really baffles me. Thousands of people are benefiting from these videos, but I want to ask you for a favor in order to increase the subscriber numbers and to support our mission to educate a global population of children. The way to do that is to click the like button, click the subscribe button, and click the notification bell so that when new videos are uploaded, you will be notified. If you do us that favor, our promise to you is our team will continue to produce high quality education videos to educate children around the world. Thank you. Before we start, I would like you to pause the video and do these retrieval practice questions in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. For the first one, you were asked to write down the fraction and decimal represented by each 100 square. Here you can see that there are 50 squares shaded plus 9 squares. So that is 59 hundredths. In the next one, there are 10 squares shaded and 3. So that's 13 hundredths. If you do not understand this, you can watch the lesson that we did some time ago about 100 squares, how to shade 100 squares and how to interpret them. In number 2, you were asked to write down the fraction shaded in the diagram. So this bar model shows that there are 10 bars, 7 have been shaded, so this is 7 tenths. Okay, and in decimal form, this will be, let's just write the decimal form, just a minute. This will be 0.59 and this will be 0.13. Okay, in decimal form, this will be 0.7. All right. First example. So if you're asked to write these relational operator symbols or these greater than, less than, or equal symbols to complete the statements, what would you do? Have a think. Well, if we shade 6 hundredths, that would be 6 squares, 6 little squares shaded. And then if we shade 0.6, 0.6 is the same thing as 6 tenths or 60 hundredths. So that will be 6 columns shaded. Of course, you can see, looking at the diagrams, that this is greater than that. So we use this symbol. Next, if we ask to shade 0.2, 0.2 is 2/10. So that means we're going to shade 2 columns, which is 20 hundredths. And if we shade 20 hundredths, we can see that they're the same. So we use the equal sign. Pause the video and try these questions. Okay, assuming you've paused the video and you've tried them, here are the answers. If we shade 0.1, 0.1 is 1/10, and 1/10 is 10 hundredths. That will be 10, one whole column of which is 10 little squares. 9 hundredths will be 9 little squares shaded. Now, if we look at the diagrams, we can see that this is bigger than that, is greater than that. So we use that symbol. If we shade 6 hundredths, that will be 6 little squares. 0.06 is also 6 hundredths. So you can see that they are the same. So we use the equal sign. 8/10 is 8 squares, 8 columns. So 80 little squares or 8 columns. And it's same thing as 80 hundredths. Now 79 hundredths will just be one short. So we can see that 8 hundredths, 80 hundredths or 8/10 is greater than 79 hundredths. So what you've learned so far is using your skill that you learned in earlier lessons of knowing how to shade 100 squares. You can convert between decimals, between fractions and decimals with the focus on tens and hundreds. Pause the video and answer question 1 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and answered question 1, here are the answers. So to shade 2/10, 2/10 is the same thing as 20 hundredths. You shade 2 whole columns or 20 little squares. And it's the same thing as the answer for B. Here you were asked to complete the equivalent fractions. By now, you should know that 0.2 is 2/10 and 0.2 is same thing as 20 hundredths. Pause the video and answer question 2 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 2, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So by now, you should know how to write the equivalence. Pause the video and answer question 3 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. Now, the question B asks, use your answers to part A to explain why 0.4 is greater than 0.04. Of course, 4/10 is greater than is equal to 0.4 and 400 is equal to 0.04. Looking at the diagrams, you can see that we have more little bars here compared to that. So diagrammatically, we can see that 4/10 is greater than 400. Pause the video and answer question 4 in 3 minutes. Assuming you pause the video, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. Mark your work and celebrate your success. Well done. All right. What if we're asked to find the next 3 terms in this linear sequence? Have a think. What do you observe? Is there something that you see that doesn't look quite okay before we can figure out or find out the constant difference? Remember, we learned in earlier lessons a long while ago that a linear sequence has a constant difference. So you're either adding the same number every time or subtracting the same number every time to get the next term in the sequence. Well, observe that we cannot really find just visually by looking at it what the constant difference is. So we have to write all of them as hundredths. That way, it will be obvious what the constant difference is. So 3/10 is 30 hundredths, 4/10 is 40 hundredths. Now it is obvious that we're adding 5 hundredths every time. And that gives us 45 hundredths, 50 hundredths, and 55 hundredths. Well, if we want to follow the pattern, the way this is written, where one is expressed as hundredths and the next term as tenths, we can change that one to 5/10. What about this one? Have a think. Can you explain why 63 hundredths is 6/10 plus 3 hundredths? Of course, 63 hundredths is 6 coulombs shaded plus 3 little squares. Now, 6/10 is the same thing as 60 hundredths. So really, that's what we shaded if we want to shade this one. And 3 hundredths will be 3 little squares. Okay, so what you've learned so far is by writing all the fractions using the same hundredths or the same tenths, using tenths or hundredths, it's easy to compare them and to either continue a linear sequence or to find out the different fractions that make up the fraction that you're trying to work out. Pause the video and answer questions 5 and 6 in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and answered questions 5 and 6, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. Here you asked to continue the linear sequence. Now remember, you have to express them as hundredths to make it easy to spot the pattern. So here that will be 10 hundredths, 11 hundredths. So you can see that it's increasing by 1 every time. Here that will be 50 hundredths. That's 65 hundredths. So you can see that it's increasing by 15 every time. Okay. So that will be 80 hundredths. So if we follow the pattern, 80 hundredths is the same thing as 8/10. We add 15 to that, that will be 95 hundredths. If we add another 15 to that, that will be 110 hundredths, which is 11 hundredths. 11 tenths, sorry. Here is the same thing. So when you express them as their equivalent, as having either hundredths or tenths, it will be easier to compare them and spot the pattern. So this is 40 hundredths. That would be 29 hundredths. The difference between 40 and 29 will be 11. So if we take away 11 from that, that will be 18 hundredths, which is 0.18. Now, if we continue the pattern, that's what we'll get. Here, you're asked to use the diagram to explain why 37 hundredths is the same thing as 3/10 plus 7 hundredths. Of course, you can see when you shade them, 3/10 is 30 hundredths, which is 30 coulombs. And then 7 hundredths will be 7 little squares. Pause the video and answer questions 7 and 8 in 3 minutes. You can take your time. You don't have to follow the timing. You can work at your own pace. Okay. Here are the answers. Here you were asked to explain to a partner why a mare is not correct. Okay, you can use 100 squares to help you. So here Amir is saying there are no tenths in 42 hundredths because the denominator is hundredths, not 10. Of course, remember that if we use 100 squares to do this, but I won't use 100 squares in order to keep this video short, 42 hundredths is made up of 40 hundredths plus 2 hundredths. Now remember, 40 hundredths is the same thing as 4 tenths. Okay, so there is tenths in 42 hundredths. All right, so you could use a bar model to represent this. You know, a point for discussion with someone you're studying with, your parent or with a partner you're studying with. Here you're asked to write a digit to make this statement correct. Well, to make this statement correct, that has to be okay. To make the statement correct, you can write any digit that shows that that is greater than 37 hundredths. Okay, you can write any digit there. And then here, is there more than one possible answer? Of course, there is more than one possible answer. We can write 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 at that position of the digit. Here, question 9, you were asked to complete the calculations. Okay, so to complete the calculations, pause the video and answer the questions in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So if we complete the calculations, this is 30 hundredths. 30 hundredths minus 20 will give us 10 hundredths. 10 hundredths, which is 1/10. Okay. Here, 1 whole is 100 hundredths. Okay, so 100 minus 91 will be 9 hundredths. Here, 50 hundredths minus 17 hundredths will be 33 hundredths. So 50 hundredths, because 5 tenths is 50 hundredths, and then 0.17 is 17 hundredths. So 50 minus 17 will give you 33 hundredths. Number 10, you're asked to complete the number sentence in 3 different ways. Well, there are different ways you can complete this. Here are the answers. Here are the answers. Okay, you can mark your work and celebrate your success. Okay. So, what we've learned so far in this lesson is we can use our knowledge of knowing how to find the equivalence between fractions and decimals using 100 squares. So being able to visualize it helps you to find the equivalence between fractions and decimals with a focus on tenths and hundredths. If you can do that, then you should be able to convert between tenths and hundredths. You should be able to convert between fractions and decimals with a focus on tenths and hundredths. Until next time, take care and bye-bye.